Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Yevamos Daf Samach Zayin. We are holding at the Mishnah, which is 8 lines from the top of the Amud. Says the Mishnah, Bas Yisrael, an Isha, coming from a family of non-Kohanim. Shenisas l'Kohen, who married a Kohen umeis. V'yinicham uberes, his Kohen husband passed away, leaving her expecting. Lo yoichlu avadeh betruma, mipnei chelko shel uber. Her slaves. Now when we speak about her slaves, it is a reference to these types of slaves which are called avdei nichsei melug. We discussed that yesterday. There are two categories of possessions which belong to the Isha within the marriage arrangement. Some are called milug, literally means like skimming, from which the husband skims off the profits, so to speak. It's her land, but he gets the produce. It's her responsibility. She has to look after it. Perhaps we learned yesterday, he has to feed the slaves, but as far as value, loss, or gain, it's all hers. Nichsei tzoin barzel, or in this case, avdei tzoin barzel, are the avadim or other possessions which were appraised upon marriage and recorded in the actual kesuva document, for which he takes full responsibility. He accepts any potential loss or gain from those items. So the former, the malug, relate to her, identify with her. The latter, the tzoin barzel, called tzoin barzel because it's animals which are barzel, as firm, as secure as steel, as iron. She's totally secure in their value and their safety because he is looking after them. He has full responsibility for those things. So those are sort of considered his. They identify with the husband. So getting back to our case, you have a Bas Yisrael, an Isha from a Yisrael family, married a Kohen, which allows her to eat Truma, of course, as long as she's married, and even after he passes away, if there are children, Kohanim, she's still connected to her husband, so to speak, and that allows her to continue eating teruma. So he passed away. He left over, as Rashi says, perhaps some children as well. But also me'uberes, she's expecting from this kohen. At this point we say like this. The Isha can eat truma because of the existing children, the outstanding children. Her avodim, meaning the avdei melug, which identify with the Isha, can continue eating as well on account of her. Simple. The avdei tzoin barzel, that's problematic. The ones that relate to the husband, or in this case, the husband's heirs. You know why? Because the uber, the unborn child, has a portion, has a schus, has rights to his father's possessions, to his father's inheritance. And since he's only a uber, we're going to see in the Gemara, an unborn child, even a kohen, does not have the ability to feed others, so to speak, to allow his charges to have truma on account of him. He's not yet an active kohen. He's an Eidna Yolad, unborn entity. He doesn't have those zechusim, those rights. So let's just see the lashon again. Bas Yisrael shnisas l'kohen umeis. Her kohen husband died. Perhaps he left over some children as well. But v'inicha muberes, he left her muberes. So she's carrying a potential kohen as yet unborn. She can have truma because she has other children that are kohanim. Her avadim, the milug avadim, which identify with her, can eat truma as well on account of her. But lo yoichlu avadeh b'truma, her avdei tzoin barzel, which identify with the husband and his family, they may not eat truma b'nei chelko shel uber because the unborn child has a part in those avadim and he can't feed them yet. She'ubar paisel, an unborn child can only interfere, only make trouble. Rashi says this is a reference to we're going to see this in the Mishnah Amud Beis. This is a reference to a Bas Kohen, Isha hailing from a Kohen family, who married a Yisrael that terminates her ability to eat Truma. Typically, if he passes away, she goes back home and reverts to her truma rights, unless there's a child from this Yisrael which sort of connects her to him, to her husband, and she has to keep that suspension in place. Let's say she's a mu'beres. This as well will prevent her from going back home and having truma. So he's paisel. He can't feed, as we explained. He can't feed. Let's say you have a case of a Isha from a Yisrael family, married a Kohen who passed away, leaving her a mu'beres. She cannot eat truma on account of the uber until he's born. So an unborn child only interferes. Only is paisel, and he has no positive impact on the truma arrangement. This is Rabbi Yossi speaking. He says the uber, in the first case, the uber has a chelik in the avodim. He has a schus. He has sort of a part ownership in the avodim. And on account of his chelik, they cannot eat. Omrulei the Chacham responded, once you've testified to us, that this halacha, that the uber interferes, applies to a Bas Yisrael married to a Kohen, as we explained. Av Bas Kohen the Kohen, it should apply to another case as well. She's a Kohen from a Kohen family, married a Kohen. Umeis, he passes away. V'nicham uberes, leaving her a mu'beres. Here as well, the same concern shall apply. Lo yoich lavadeh b'truma min mechelkel shel uber. The avadim of the husband's family, the Tzayin Bar's avadim, the one that relate to him, that identify with the husband and the family, should not eat truma because of the uber. Why is it specific to a Bas Yisrael who's carrying an unborn child from a Kohen? It should apply to a Bas Kohen as well. So even though she's a Kohen, but the child is as yet unborn. He's an uber. And he has a chelik in the avodim, and he cannot feed him as of yet. So why are you limiting your halacha to a Bas Yisrael? It should apply to a Bas Kohen as well. The Gemara will answer the question. Iboilu, here comes the question. How do we understand Rabbi Yossi? Two ways to understand it. Time of the Rabbi Yossi is the reason Mishum the Kasavar Uber b'me'ezara Zoru, an unborn child being carried by a Zora, by a non-Kohen, a Bas Yisrael, is considered a non-Kohen because it relates to her. Fetus and the mother are like one entity. And as we explained, since this Ubar has a Zechus in his father's possessions, that prevents them from eating because he's their owner and he can't eat, so they can't eat. Is that the reason? In which case it only applies, it would only be applicable to an Uber being carried by a Bas Yisrael, right? Or perhaps it's a universal concept that applies in all cases. Yolad Mach, only a child who is already born can feed. He's an active Kohen, he can feed his charges, his possessions, his avodim. But an unborn child, even if he's a Kohen, he's being carried around by Kohenes. He's not a Zar, his mother's a Kohenes from home. But we learn from our pasuk. Rashi brings it. Vilid beisahem yoichel belachmoi kari beyachilu. Only a yilid bais, only a child already born, an active kohen. Since he can eat, he can feed as well. But if it's not yet born, so he doesn't have that ability. If you can't eat, you can't feed. What's the difference between these two choices, these two approaches? Whether it's a Zar concern or a Eina Yalod concern, very simple. Nafkamina is l'uber b'mei kohenes. He's an uber being carried by kohenes. The Zar factor you don't have, but the Eina Yalod factor, the unborn factor, you still have. What would be the halach? Amar Rabba. I know time of the Rabbi Yossi. You know what Rabbi Yossi's reason is? The first reason, the kasavar uber b'mei zara, a child being carried around by an isha who's a zar, who's a non-kohenes, he too is considered a zar. So although when he's born, he's certainly a kohen because his father is. in terms of kahuna, you identify with your father. But that's only once you're born. The Mepharshim explain, a kohen, the essence of a kohen is a servant, an active servant. He hasn't reached that point yet. He's unborn. He's inactive. He doesn't have the halachas of a kohen. There's a question as to how fathers goes, whether for tumah as well, but in this Gemara we discussed the truma aspect, and he doesn't have that access yet. And again, because he's being carried by a zara. So he identifies with his mother at this point. And therefore, this halacha only applies by a Bas Yisrael. Rabbi Yosef Amar, he takes on a different approach. It's the unborn concern that concerns us. Yolad machal, only a born child can feed. She'ein yolad machal, but a fetus, an unborn child, he can't eat, he can't feed. This applies to whether he's bim'ei Yisrael, bim'ei kohen, whether his mother is a Bas Yisrael or Bas Kohen. He's an Eino Yolad. Meisvei, here comes a kasha on Rabbi Yosef. The Chacham responded to Rabbi Yosef. This is very similar to our Mishnah, just a slightly different version. It's a brisa. They ask him like this: once you've informed us, Al Bas Yisrael Shel Kohen, in the case of a Bas Yisrael who was married to a Kohen, he passes away, leaving her as a mu'beres. You tell us there's a concern. Bas Kohen LeKohen Ma. What happens if she's a Kohen from home? Married a Kohen, passed away, she's mu'beres. What happens there? Amar Lehem, he responds. A big difference. Zur Shamati. In the first case, I heard the halacha. The Uber interferes. V'zu lo Shamati. But not in the second case. If he's being carried by a Kohenes, he too is a Kohen. He doesn't interfere. End quote. That's the price. This makes sense if you say Uber me Zara Zaru. The Rabbi Yosef's concern is based on the Zar factor. That explains why he differentiated. And he said, Zushamati. When his mother is a Zara, Israelis, he too is considered as such, and his ownership, his partial ownership in the Avada will impede their ability to eat Truma. As opposed to the second case, when his mother is a Kohenes, that non-Kohen factor doesn't apply. He is a Kohen as well, and he won't interfere. So if it's based on the non-Kohen factor, certainly there's a difference between whether his mother is a Kohen or not. But according to Rabbi Yosef's approach, the unborn factor is what concerns us. So what's the difference between this mother or that mother? The child is unborn. Why did Rabbi Yosef respond? Well, in this case it's a problem, in this case not. It's the same exact, identical concern. Kashya, we leave it as a kasha. So it would seem from the conclusion that the Gemara favors Rabbi's approach. What's wrong with the Uber? Why does he get in the way of the Avadim's ability to have Truma? Because we reckon him as a Zar, because he's being carried by a Zara. Amr Vidamar Shmuel, Zudiv Rabbi Yosef. This is Rabbi Yosef's approach. He says, look, an Uber has a financial interest, has a partial ownership in those Avadim. Notwithstanding the fact that he's not yet even here. No, even an Uber, who's a Her, who's a Yerish, has a chelik in the Avadim. And therefore he gets in the way. That's Rabbi Yosef's shit. Aval Chachamim totally disagree. An Uber, he doesn't acquire anything at this point. When he'll be born, we'll deal with him. At this early point, he has no balus, he has no ownership in the Avadim. He's a non-factor. Aval Chachamim Oimrim, Yesh Leibanim, Oichle Mishim Banim. Kohen passes away, leaving behind sons, born sons. The Avadim can eat on account of them, on account of their owners. So even if we have an uber here, an unborn child, he's a non-factor because he has no ownership in the avodim. Ein lo badim. Kohen leaves behind no sons. Well, he has brothers that are Yerushim, brothers are Kohanim, and therefore Oichle Mishum Achim. Avodim can continue eating on account of the brothers who are Kohanim owners. Ein lo Achim, he had no brothers. Well, he has other family members who are Kohanim, who are the Yerushim of these Avodim. Oichle Mishum Mishpacha Kula, they can have Truma because they're owned by other relatives who are Kohanim. So this is who speaking? Rabbi Yehuda, the name of Shmuel, quoting Rabbi Yesi, Zu div Rabbi Yesi, which sounds like Zu v'leisvirle. He's just relating Rabbi Yesi's shita, but he doesn't personally concur with it. That the avodim are considered owners. He doesn't hold of it. Really? Zu v'leisvirle? Malay Shmuel. Shmuel himself tells the Rav Chana Bagdasa, Rav Chana from Baghdad, according to one pshat in Rashi. Another pshat is he's a Baal Agada. He was an expert in Agada. He tells him, Puk, go out, Aisili Biasora, bring together a minyan, the Emelach Ban Payu, so I can tell you in their presence, in public, so it's properly publicized. I want to tell you a chiddush, which is Hamazakil Ubar, like Kana. Sorry, Hamazakil Ubar Kana. If one gifts, he gives something to an uber, an unborn child, the child is kaina. He has the ability to acquire, to be kaina, to receive. Here as well, the uber has a chelik in the avodim. How could Shmuel disagree with this concept? Shmuel himself subscribes to this idea. Ella zu v'svirale. Rather, when Shmuel says, this is Rabbi Yesi speaking, he personally agreed to it as well. The uber has a right, has ownership, and therefore they have to reckon with him. My Kamashmalan. So what was the point of saying this over? If he's just saying it over and he agrees with it, so why did he have to relate a halacha that we know in a Mishnah and that we have in a Brisa? The pligi rabbanon alei de Rabbi Yesi. He was come to tell us that you should know there's a machlekes in this matter. There's Rabbi Yesi, but then there's the Rabban who disagree. They hold that an uber does not have the ability to acquire. He's not a full-fledged person. He's just a potential person. Was that his point? To tell you about the Rabbanon? Is there even a dissenting view? Umi pligi? Va'amar Rabbi Zakai zu heidus. Heid Rabbi Yesi. This halacha was something Rabbi Yesi testified from his Rebbeim, Shmai V'Avtalion, V'hoidoloi, and the Chacham agreed with him. Apparently, there is no machlekes. Amar Rav Ashi, Miktani V'Kiblu. Let's pay close attention to the wording in the Brisa. Does it say they accepted his view? V'hoidoloi Tani, they agreed in concept and principle. V'hoidoloi Tani, the Mustaber Tami, his idea makes sense. Sure, if the uber would have a right to be kaina and would have ownership, I understand his presence can interfere because, as we explained, he's uber b'meizar, he's not yet a full-fledged kohen. He can't eat, they can't eat, it would make sense, but we haven't really gotten to first base because we hold, us Rabbanon hold, that a uber can't even have ownership. Mezakil uber lo ikana. So the concept of yours makes sense. If he would have rights, if he would have ownership, yeah, but it so happens to be that an uber cannot acquire anything. So bottom line is, we do have a machlekes. In the case of a uber b'me'ezar, an uber being carried around by a bas Yisrael, an uber from a kohen. We're speaking even if there were other children around, which allows the isha to eat, because as we explained, the children of a kohen enable the wife of a kohen, the widow of a kohen, to continue eating truma. She and her avdei milug that identify with her can have. Regarding avdei tzoyin brazel that relate to the husband and his family, Rabbi Yossi says they can't eat at this point. The uber b'mei zara is a zara, and he has partial rights, partial ownership vis-a-vis those avodim. So I have to wait until he's born. Chachamim say, Mazakel uber leikana. Just like if you gift an uber, he doesn't have any rights. He can't be a zoiche. Here as well, the unborn child has no ownership in the avodim and does not interfere with their ability to eat truma. Tan Rabbanon, we learned in the Bryce. Continuing on this topic, Hiniach Banam. So she's a Bas Yisrael, married to a Kohen. He passes away, leaving behind Banam, outstanding children. Eilu ve'eilu eichlam. So we have Banam without an uber issue. So everybody's good for truma. Everybody. The Isha, these avodim, those avodim, one happy family. Hiniach muberes. Kohen passes away, leaving her as a muberes, and Rashi says without any outstanding banim, without any born children. Nobody's eating truma. Nobody. Mother, avodim, because there is no child. It was achilas truma. And by the way, this is L'kuliyam, all agree. If it's only an uber, that doesn't do much. The whole discussion was when there were banim and an uber. Does he interfere? But here we just have the uber, nothing doing. Hiniach banim v'hiniach muberes. Oh, you have children from the kohen, and she's also a muberes. So this is going to be Rabbi Yesi speaking. He says, look, Avdei melug oichlim, kederach shehi oicheles. Just as wife can have truma on account of the banim, likewise her avadim, the melug avadim that identify with her. Avdei tzoin bars lo yoichlu, not the other avadim which identify with the husband and his family. Ibnei chelkla shel uber sheuber poisel v'nei machal divrei Rabbi Yesi. Again, Rabbi Yesi is speaking and telling us that an uber has ownership. He has partial rights to those avodim. And therefore, he gets in the way. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yesi, Omer, Mishum Aviv. Rabbi Shmuel, who was Rabbi Yesi's son, quotes his father and presents a sort of a cryptic formula, which the Gemara later will elaborate on. Habas ma'acheles, habeit eni machel. Let's leave it for the Gemara later. Rabbi Shimon Yichai Omer, he says like this. In concept, I'm with Rabbi Yesi. An uber can get in the way. But it all depends on the gender. What's going on here? Remember, we have some sons standing here. And an uber. So if these are zecharim, yechelu. If the sons are actually sons, yochelu kulan, all the avadim can have. Everybody. And Rashi explains. You know why? Because in all likelihood, this uber, this future child, will not play a role in the Yerusha. He will not interfere. He will not have a chelik in the Yerusha. You know why? Picture it. We have a bunch of boys. Plus, the mother is expecting. Typically, it's 50-50. Zecharim, 50 nekevos, right? 50-50 chance that the child will not be a zachar. In which case, she has no Yerusha rights amongst the boys. Right? Al Pi Torah, the boys are Yerush, not the girls. So 50%, he's not even a zachar. And even if he is of the male gender, perhaps he'll be a nafel. Sometimes it happens. We have an unsuccessful pregnancy. So the chances that he'll interfere are less than 50%. Rav says that he's not going to be an interfering factor at all. In all likelihood, he's a non-player. And therefore, we're not concerned with him. We don't have to reckon with him. So, Zecharim Yechel Kulam. If the kids that are here, that are born, are Zecharim, We don't need to reckon with the uber. Only avadim can identify with the existing children, consider themselves belonging to the existing children, and have their truma. Nekevas leyoch, but if the existing children are girls, then the avdei tzoyin barzel, the avadim that identify with the husband's family, cannot have truma. Shema yimatzi uber zachar. Perhaps the unborn child will turn out to be a boy. And what happens? Ve'en lebanos, girls don't have a right. Ve'en lebanos b'mokum haben klum. When there's a boy around, he's the Yerush, not them. Right? So, the unborn child is going to be the rightful owner, and not them. And he, at this point, doesn't have the ability to feed truma. So on that concern, they have to stop eating truma. Asks the Gemara, why do you need this additional factor that's going to be a boy and he'll take over the show? Why do you need that svara that he might end up being a boy? Typically, say simply, the nekeva nami pasla. Look, you have a bunch of nekevas. You have an uber. Even if she turns out to be a nekeva, so she's going to share the Yerusha with the older sisters. So she has partial ownership in the avadim, and they have to stop eating on account of her chelik until she's born. The same concern applies if she's in a nekeva. Why do you need to say, well, he might be a zachar and take over the whole show? You're right. Both factors are concerning. Chada, the two reasons. Number one is a simple concern. Void, chada void ka'amar. It's one concern on top of the other. Chada, a basic concern is the nekeva nami pasla. The uber turns out to be a nekeva. She's going to divide the Yerusha with her sisters. She's considered a partial owner. At this point, she's only an uber who cannot feed. Void, an additional concern is Shema yimatze uber zachar. He might turn out to be a boy, in which case he completely takes over the show. Ve'en lebanos b'mokum haben klum, and girls cannot take Yerusha when there's a son. If he's the sole heir, he's the sole owner of the avadim, then they really have what to be concerned about. He's their owner and he's not around to feed them. So that's Reb Shimon Reichai's chiddush. We have to take in the whole scenario. Look at the existing members of the family, in totality. Take a panoramic view of the family and judge accordingly. But in concept, he agrees with Rabbi Yossi. An uber poses a concern, but he says, look, sometimes it works out, sometimes it's fine. So what did he say? He said, Zcharim meichelu. If the existing children are Zacharim, and the Avadim can have that truma. The Gemara will sort of go through the calculations that we made based on Rashi. What do you mean, Va'ika Uber? What about the Uber that's here? Kasavar ein chayshish in lamiuta. It's only a minority chance. It's only a small chance. Because as we explained, half the time it's a nekeva. And even if it's not a zachar, even if it is a zachar, it might be a nefel, a non-viable child, in which case he's not a yerush. So in all likelihood, he's not an interfering factor. We don't have to reckon with him. Another pshat. Why is there no concern in this case? Even if we are chayshish for a miyut, that perhaps he's going to be a healthy zachar, and then he's going to be an owner, he's going to be a yerush, and then we have to reckon with him. There's a way around it. How? We make the following arrangement. We sort of divvy up the properties, divvy up the inheritance, and we designate something for this uber. We leave the avadim out of it. In which case he's not an owner of the Eved, and he's not an interfering factor. Very simple. We circumvent his ownership. We give him something else. And that is perhaps Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's svara. Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel, as he tells us, Amar Nachman Amar Shmuel, Yisoymim shebo lachlek nichsi avim. You have Yisoymim, youngsters, who would like to divide up their father's properties. Bezdin ma'midin lehem apotropos. Bezdin appoints for them a caretaker, a boirer lehem chelak yafa. He knows exactly what each kid needs, and he divides the properties. Clearly, Bezdin has the ability to designate parts and pieces and properties as per they see fit. And the Gemara continues, Higdilu, let's say the Yisraelim turn into adults, and they're not happy with their lot. They can protest and appeal the arrangement that was done on their behalf. That's Rav Nachman in the name of Shmuel, that they have appealing rights. Rav Nachman the Deyamar, Rav Nachman who presented this halacha, he himself says no. He disagrees with Shmuel. Of course, they can never undo the arrangement done by Bezdin. They came because otherwise, ma koyach Bezdin yafa. What's the point of Bezdin? What kind of authority do they have if you can just undo what they did for you? In any case, clearly, Bezdin at times will make arrangements. Will divide properties and possessions and Yerushos as per they see fit. And perhaps that's the basis for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's lack of concern. He says if there's boys around, don't worry about the Uber. So one mahalach was, well, because the Uber is in all likelihood not a healthy boy. Or the second pshat was, because we simply give him something else. The avadim we grant to the banim that are here, and the Uber gets a portion of the other field. You can do that. So he's a non-entity. He's a non-owner. He doesn't interfere with the avadim's right to eat. So this is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but it appears that he was being chaylik on Rabbi Yossi. Why? What's the point of machlokes? It sounds like a pretty good svara. Just give him a different thing. Says the Gemara, Lema de Rav Nachman Tanai. Do you mean to say that this concept presented by Rav Nachman, that Bezdin can divide and allocate nechasim, is based on a machlokes Tanaim? Rabbi Yossi disagrees with it? No. The Kuli Alma, Isl de Rav Nachman, perhaps all agree with the concept of Rav Nachman. Bezdin can divide, can allocate. We'll go back to the first teretz. The machlokes here is based on the shaila of whether we're concerned about a miyut, about an unlikely scenario. So we have a Bas Yisrael married to a Kohen who passed away, leaving behind some boys, and leaving her as a mu'uberes. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, don't worry about him. In all likelihood, he's a non-factor. Either he's not a boy, or even if he is, he's perhaps a neifel. Most chances are that he's not a concern. Ein choshesh l'mi'ut. And Rabbi Yossi is choshesh l'mi'ut. On that small chance that he's a healthy boy, he's a part owner in these avodim. We have to reckon with him. That's the point of machlokes, a very slight machlokes, not based on concept or principle. A local question of whether choshesh l'mi'ut, which is actually Shitas Rameya throughout Shas, and that's Shitas Rabbi Yossi as well. Okay, let's go back to the Bryce. So we had that cryptic statement presented by Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Eimer, Mishum Ave. Rabbi Shmuel quotes his father, that what? Habas machel, haben eni machel. So the Gemara at this point figures. He means like this. Bas Yisrael the Kohen passes away, leaving her as a mu'uberes. Can the avodim eat? Habas machel, haben eni machel. If there's a bas standing here, aside from the mu'uberes, a bas, a girl, a daughter of the Kohen, then the avodim can have their truma. The uber doesn't pose concern. Whereas if there's a ben, there's a boy standing here with the unborn child, Einoi machel, the avadim can't. Maishna, what's the difference? Maishna ben delay machel. Why is it that by a son, the Eved can't? Mishim chelka shel uber. Because the unborn child has a chelik, he's a part owner in the Eved. Bas nami lo tachel. Same if there's a daughter here. Chelka shel uber. The Eved can't eat because he's partly owned by the uber. So what's the difference? Amar Abaye, we're speaking about a very specific case, a unique case. There isn't much properties. The Kain, father passed away, left behind a small number of possessions, not enough to support his children until they become adults. The halach is that in this case, Chachamim made a takana on behalf of the girls. They get it. They get whatever's there. They use it to support themselves, and the boys, they have to go collecting. It's easier for them than for them. Easier for the boys than for the girls. So the takana is that they get the nechasa mu'atim. Now, ukigoin the ika ben, we're speaking that there's a boy here as well, bahadi bas, together with the daughter. Kohen passed away, leaving behind a son and a daughter. And just very few nechas, very few possessions. Chachamim took it away from the boy, who is the rightful Yerush min HaTorah, and they granted it to the girl. In this case, says Rabbi Yesi, the Eved can have his truma. How's that? Manav shach, because either way it's good. What's your concern? The uber, the unborn child, who's a part owner in the Eved? Let's break it down. Let's break it down step by step. Let's go through all possibilities. Is the uber going to be a boy? Is it going to be a girl? If he's going to be a boy, well, guess what? A boy has no rights in this situation. Lo yodef, he's no better from this boy standing here. He's no better than the existing boy who lost his rights midrabanan. So he's not a player. This boy is not a player, and this boy is not a player. Rather, the girl is the sole owner of the avadim. Right? That makes sense. Ibasi. On the other hand, let's say the unborn child is going to turn out to be a girl. That too does not pose concern. Amayachla. Why will she gain rights to her departed father's possessions? Why? Is a girl a Yerush when there's a boy? No. It's only b'takanta d'Rabbana. It's based on a takana. They took it away from the boys and gave it to the girls. Well, guess what? That only happens once she's born, when she needs it. Kama delay nafak lavira olam. As long as the child is as yet unborn, loy tekinu Rabbana, they don't benefit from the takanas chachamim. That's only applicable from moment of birth onward. The point is to support them. The point of birth onward. Beforehand. It's going, it's beautiful. Therefore says Rabbi Shmuel, in the name of his father, it all depends what's going on. You're concerned about the uber. Let's break it down. Let's play it out. If there are only nechasim mu'atim, in which case chacham made a takana, boys have no rights, only girls, then the whole concern of the avodim and the uber doesn't apply, as we explained. So now, b'mayu kimta, how are we interpreting the brisa? How are we describing this halacha? Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yesi, b'nechasim mu'atim, right? There's a small number of possessions. Amos Sefer. Let's move on to the next part of the brisa, the next Tana, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who gave us a whole rundown, schar, mekevus, etc. And he said, look, if there are girls around, then there's a concern, because the uber might end up being a zachar. Shami matzah uber zachar, and if he's a zachar, then he takes over the whole Yerusha. Right? That's what Rabbi Shimon Yochai was telling us. Ve'en lebanis makim ben klum. If the unborn child turns out to be a boy, he takes over the whole thing. He's the true Yerush, and the girls have no rights, and he's considered the true owner of the Avadim, and since he can't eat yet, they can't eat, right? What do you mean? Adrab, just the opposite. You just told me that Nechasim Mu'atim, the Banais Ninu. By Nechasim Mu'atim, who gets access to the Nechasim? Girls, not boys. So what's he saying? Oh, Seifa Ason, Nechasim Reuben. Apparently the next part of the Brisa switched tracks. Plenty Nechasim. There's enough for everybody. Enough to go around. So in that case, boys are the primary Yerushim. And therefore, if there are only girls here, the Avadim shouldn't eat because the unborn child might turn out to be a boy who takes over the Yerusha. He's the real owner. And at this early point, he's only an Uber. The Avadim are his, and therefore they can't have Trum. So let's go back for a second to the earlier case. To Rishma Rabbi Yesi, and Chasim Mu'atim the Banes Ninu. We're working with the notion that when it's Nechasim Mu'atim, the girls are considered owners. Now, that was the precept, which the whole concept was based on, right? Is that so? V'amar ve'asi, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Yisayim shekadmu machar b'nechasim Mu'atim. The boys jump ahead and they sell off Nechasim Mu'atim. It's not commended, it's not recommended. But at the end of the day, Masha Machru Machru. Sale is a valid sale. Clearly, they are considered the owners. Rashi says, since with respect to sale, with respect to Mechira, Birushu Sayu Kaimu, it's considered their domain. Hechi Achli, so how can we just ignore them? Sure. Chachamim tell them to give away the Nechasim to the girls. Well, let's say they didn't. They snatched it and they sold it. It's a done deal. So technically, they're the owners. The Avadim are theirs. And if he happens to be an Uber owner can't feed. So the whole shtickle Torah that we had, the whole explanation in Rabbi Yehuda's, Shmuel Rabbi Yesi's, formula there with the bas and the ben doesn't really hold. Oh, says the Gemara. Okay, we're going to fall away from it. Let's backtrack. Let's learn Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yesi very simply. Ve'ela mai bastik toni aim. All he was saying was like this. We're speaking about a regular case. Nechasim, doesn't matter. Mu'atim, Reuben, that's not the issue. Abbas Yisrael married a Kain. He passes away, leaving behind perhaps a child, leaving behind an Isha Mu'beres. What happens? Mother can have Truma because there's a child here. A child who was born. So mother can have. Her Avadim can have on account of her. That's all he says. Vela mai basik tani. When he says bas machil, he meant aim, the mother. It's just a reference to a female. She and the Avadim can eat. She and her Avadim on account of the son. But ben ene machil means that the son can't feed the Avadim that identify with him, meaning the Avdi Tzarn Barzel. Why? Because of the Uber. Because the unborn child is also a partial owner in those Avadim. That's all. Very simple halacha. He was just sort of formalizing and recapping Rabbi Yesi's halacha. Yachi and Rabbi Yesi. Okay, then he's just repeating Rabbi Yesi, who had already presented his shita in the beginning of the Brisa. Why is Rabbi Shmuel Brisa coming back and giving us this same halacha all over again? There's nothing new here. You're right. Kula, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yesi, Ketana, the entire Brisa is actually Rabbi Shmuel quoting his father, Rabbi Yesi, from beginning to end. He starts off with his father's shita, right? And the Gemara, the Brisa refers to it as Divrei Rabbi Yesi. Then we have Rabbi Yesi, Ayim Shem Avir, and he presents it in a concise form. Habas Machelas, mother's okay, and the son has a problem with his avodim because of the uber who interferes. So it's all Rabbi Shmuel speaking the name of his father. So what do we have? We have a Bas Yisrael, married a Kain. She's eating Truma at this point, but he passed away. What happens now? What happens with the Isha and her avodim? What happens to the Avdi Tzayin Barzel? So you have several possible situations. He left behind Banim, boys or girls. No Muberes, just children. Everybody's good. Everybody's safe. Right? The Isha can have, because she's still connected to her former husband on account of the offspring that are Kehanim. Her Avdi Melu can eat as well. The Avdi Tzayin Barzel can eat on account of the Yershim that are here that are Kehanim. If she is only a Muberes, no children, just Muberes, all have to stop eating. Because, as we learned, and we're going to see in a minute in the Mishnah again, an unborn child, in this case, is not considered a full-fledged act of Kayin. He only gets in the way. He can't enable others to eat. So she has to wait until he's born. What if we have both elements? We have Banim, and she's Muberes. Now we're running into a Homachlekes. Going to Shitza Chachamim, no concern. Because the Uber is not Kaina. He's not considered even a partial owner in those Avadim. So everybody can continue eating on account of the Banim that are here. Go to Rabbi Yesi, the Isha can eat on account of the Banim. And likewise, her Avdi Meluk, but not the Avdi Tzayin and Bras, who are partially owned by the Uber of the Zara. Rav Shimon Yochai agrees with Rabbi Yesi in principle, but he breaks it down a bit further. He says, look, if the Banim are Zcharim, most chances are they're going to be the only Yershim. The Uber won't interfere. Either it shall be a Nekeva or a Nefel. So if it's Zcharim, everyone's safe. If the existing children are Nekevas, then we have a real concern. Because we're Cheshish Lemiuta, maybe the unborn child will end up being a healthy boy who takes over the whole show. He's going to be the real owner. So Avdi Tzayin Barzel have to wait until he's born. Because an Uber, in this case, can't feed. He's an Uber b'mei Zara. He's a Zara. But this doesn't affect the Isha or the Avdi Melug, who continue eating on account of the existing children. Continues the Mishnah. In the following cases, the Isha is going to be in limbo, so to speak, without any rights to Truma. Ha'ubar, as we explained before, an unborn child. He only gets in the way. He never enables the Isha to have Truma. We're speaking that there were no children. She was a Bas Yisrael, married to a Kohen, no children. Passed away, leaving her Muberes. She has to wait until he's born to resume eating Truma. Likewise, if she was a Bas Kohen, she's coming from a Kohen family, who married a Yisrael, which terminated her Achilas Truma rights, he passed away. Typically, she can go back home and have her father's Truma again, but not if she has a child from the Yisrael, which connects her to him, even if she's only Muberes from him. She cannot go back home and eat Truma. V'hayavam. Likewise, in the case of a Shemeres Yavam, she's a Bas Yisrael, who's awaiting Yibum from a Kohen. That's not enough to feed her Truma. She's not yet married to him. Likewise, if she's a Bas Kohen, awaiting Yibum from a Yisrael, she can't go back home and eat Truma. She's sort of tied to the Yavam, who's a Yisrael. In all these cases, the situation puts her right in the middle, in limbo. She can't go there, she can't go there, she has to stop eating Truma. Va'erison, likewise engagement. It doesn't connect her completely. It doesn't give her the husband's Truma rights. Same thing, it doesn't allow her to go back home and eat her father's Truma. V'acherish, if she was married to a deaf-mute fellow, she can't have his truma. Ubas teisha shanim yem echad, the Gemara will explain this. In all these cases, poislin, they disable her truma, disallow her achilas truma, v'lei machilin, but likewise, they can't feed her truma, as we explained. Safek shu ben tes shanim yem echad. Safek she'ena. Let's say there's a suffix as to whether he's 9 in a day or not. Or in the case of the engaged couple, Safek heavy base saris. There's a suffix whether he's an adult, whether he exhibits those pubic hairs, whether he's considered an adult, v'safek shalei heavy or not. So was the Kinyan Kiddushin, was the Erison effective or not? We're not sure. In all these cases, misafek, she can't eat truma. Once we're speaking about uncertainties, let's throw in another suffix pertaining to Yibum, to Tzaras Erva. Remember that? Tzaras Erva. Nafal abayis olav al bas achiv. So the case as follows. We have two brothers, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven was married to Rachel, who happens to be Shimon's daughter. It's a big yichus to marry your niece. We had this back in the Samach Gimel. Hanoi says bas achoisei. Perhaps bas achiv as well. So, he's married to his niece, Rachel, and also Leah, a stranger, who's unrelated to Shimon. If Reuven passes away first, leaving behind Rachel and Leah as Yevamos, Rachel is a daughter of Shimon, an erva, she's pater, and the contemporary, the other wife, Leah, is also pater, a tzaras erva. Well, let's say we're not sure what happened. Nafal abayis, the house collapsed, olav al bas achiv, on Reuven and Rachel. Ve'en yodua eza meis rishon. We're unsure as to what happened. Who died first? Reuven went first. Rachel and Leah Yevamos. Rachel is an erva to Shimon, her daughter, and Leah is a tzaras erva. Perhaps, no, Rachel was struck first. So she left the scene before Reuven passed away. She never entered the Yibum realm in order to affect Leah. She was gone before Reuven passed away. So Reuven passes on. Leah is the sole Yevama, presenting to Shimon, and needs to do Yibum. Which way? We don't sure. So what do we do? Misafek tzarasa chaletzes lamisabemes. Leah gets chalitza without Yibum. The Gemara explains the opening statement of the Mishnah, the list of all these cases, Ubor and Yavam. They are paisel and not machal. How? Ha'ubar, I bas kohen li Yisrael, if she's coming from a kohen family and was married to Yisrael, who passed away leaving her a meuberes, I bas kohen li Yisraeli, pasela. It disqualifies her. She can't go back home to her parents to have truma. Why? Kinurea. Pasuk says if she's back home the way she was before she was married, and she reverts to her father's truma. Kinurea, in the same state, unchanged. Prat, as opposed to lumuberes, if she's expecting from this kohen, that's not called kinurea. She's still tied to him. She identifies with her former husband. There's no truma allowed. Ibas kohen li Yisrael, ibas Yisrael li koheni. Or let's say she was coming from an Yisrael family and was married to a kohen who passed away, leaving her a meuberes. Here again, lo machala. She can't have truma on account of the muber of the ubar, as we explained. Yolod machal. Only a child who's already born can feed his mother. She'eno yolod ein machal. But a child who's Eino Yolod, Eino Machal can't feed his mother. Same story with a Yavam. Ibas Kohen li Yisraeli. She hails from a Kohen family and is awaiting Yibum to a Yavam Yisrael. Pasala, that disqualifies her from her family's truma. V'shava el beisaviyah. Only if she can go back home. Here she's still attached to the Yavam. She's bound to him. Prat l'shemeres Yavam. And he's a Yisrael. Conversely, Ibas Yisrael Kohen. She hails from a Yisrael family and is awaiting Yibum to a Kohen, he can't feed her as well. She's not yet married to him. Loi machila. Why? Kinyan kaspa emerachmona. Only his Kinyan can he feed. Vai Kinyan da'achavi. Who? Yibam is his brother's Kinyan, not his. And Tosfos points out, of course, after Yibum. She's a full-fledged wife. She can have his truma. But until Yibum, that doesn't apply. Likewise, engagement, va'irusim. Ibas Kohen li Yisraeli. If she's a bas Kohen to a Yisrael pasala, that disqualifies her from her family's truma, dehakanya b'havai, because he acquired her through the Kinyan Kedushin. And at that point, she's connected to a stranger, to an Ish Zar, non-Kohen. Bas Yisrael Kohen. If she comes from a Yisrael family, engaged to a Kohen, it's too early. Lo ma'achala, you can't feed her truma at this point. Mishum de'ula. Ulan Mesechus Ksubas explains that technically she can have truma because she's his acquisition, but Chacham were concerned that if you allow her to eat truma while she's still back home, she might feed her siblings truma, which of course is asur, and therefore she has to wait until marriage. Okay, let's just briefly review today's daf. We had a discussion regarding the koyach of an ubar. According to Chachamim, ubar has no koyach kinyan at all. He doesn't play a role. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he does. And the Gemara's maskana was, if it's a Bas Yisrael who was married to a Kohen who passed away leaving a mu'beres, the unborn child being carried by a Bas Yisrael is considered at this point a Zor, a non-Kohen, and therefore he affects his charges. The Avodim that identify with him, the Abdi Tzar Barzel, may not eat Truma until he's born. Chachamim say, an Ubar has no Koyach Kinyan, he doesn't play a role, he's a non-factor. We had Rav Shimon Bar Yochai tells us that if it's just mi'uta, if the concern is just an unlikely concern that he'll be an interfering factor, we don't have to be concerned about that. And we concluded with the Mishnah a list of cases where they are paisel and not mach. All the best to you and hatzlacha rabba.